Welcome back. Well, summer is here. It's a perfect time to go check out those open houses you've been wanting to see and just find out what's going on in the real estate market. And if you have done any reading, you know that home sales and sale prices are rising here in Massachusetts.
Well, in April, in fact, the median sale price set a new record for April at $382,000 in Massachusetts. It's a lot of money. And so how should you start the process? Usually we ask these questions of a realtor, but joining us tonight, we're going to go a bit of a different direction. Financial expert, Rich Rivera from Charles Schwab. Thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Some people try to think, well, can I kind of figure out the cycle based on the economy and what's happening? So what's your recommendation to people? Should they, if that seems like an exorbitant amount of money, should they hold off and wait a little bit longer? Is it smart to rent now and then put it off, or can you just not time it?
Right. That's a great question. There are so many factors to take into consideration. You know, first, you want to think about, do I want to be here, you know, for north of, say, 5 years? My employment, is it the type of work that I want to be doing? Do I see myself staying in this particular market? Sometimes it doesn't make sense to purchase.
Should you look at houses first and then figure out the financing later, or is it smarter to really get pre-approved and figure out what you can do before you even get into looking?
Excellent question. You definitely want to get pre-approved first. It's really important. It shows real estate agents and sellers that you're serious, that you're qualified, and that you're in a position to make an offer, especially when you're competing against others. It's best to be pre-approved.
And should people be working on their credit score before applying for the mortgage? And if so, how do you go about doing that? How do you go about improving that credit score over time?
Your credit score is very important. I would definitely, know what your credit score is. There are ways to learn that information. And if you need to improve it, some of the most efficient ways to do so are to ensure that if you have high credit card balances, let's just say, you want to pay those down. You want to pay your bills on time. That does make a difference. And over time, that really does have a nice effect on your credit score.
So you can actually spend some time doing that, paying down bills and making your credit score go up before you even go to somebody.
That's correct.
Try to borrow money.
That's correct.
Which is a smart thing to do.
It is important to have a good credit score.
Yeah.
A good credit score affords you greater flexibility in the interest rate that that you'll ultimately have to pay with your mortgage.
And what about down payments? Often it's you got to put down 20% in cash. Is that always the case, or are there ways to break up the loan so that you're paying 10% here, 10% here?
Right. So 20% is a really important number. It's the ideal number to put down. What that does is it lets mortgage companies know that you're very serious. It qualifies you more efficiently, if you will. And it's not always that you need to put 20% down. Oftentimes there are other borrowing situations where you can put down less, maybe 5 or 10. But in a competitive environment, you really want to be in a position to be pre-approved for financing. Again, 20% does help make that happen more efficiently. And buyers, you're competing against other individuals, so oftentimes, there are more qualified individuals. If you don't have that pre-qualification, you're oftentimes at a disadvantage.
You know what I always wonder from a financial perspective is, very often a real estate agent or someone in the family might say, just stretch a little bit. If you think you can afford this much, get a house that's a little bit more. Do you think that's a dangerous way to think about this?
It could very well be a dangerous way. A good rule of thumb is to think of your housing expense really to be no more than 30% of your pre-tax income. And your overall debt to be roughly 35 to maybe 40% on the maximum.
So you're saying 30% is your mortgage payment? You want your mortgage payment to be just 30% of pre-tax income?
Your mortgage payment and the associated costs with the mortgage.
Correct. Taxes, the insurance.
Right? Exactly. By doing so, what you're really allowing is you're allowing yourself to not have an undue burden of expense.
Get house poor.
Exactly. Right? There's so many additional expenses, beyond just simply the mortgage payment. So it's important to take that into consideration.
What are some of the pros and the cons of doing the 15 or the 30-year mortgage? I know some people will do the adjustable rate as well.
Right.
Where do you stand on that?
Sure. A fixed mortgage is generally the most appropriate mortgage for individuals who are on a fixed income, if you will. Somebody who maybe gets maybe a few percentage point increase in their annual income per year. You want to have that level of stability with a fixed mortgage. It's also good for individuals who plan on staying where they are for an extended period of time. Let's say north of 7+ years. Whereas an ARM mortgage or an adjustable rate mortgage tend to be more beneficial for individuals individuals who don't envision staying in a location for an extended period of time, and so they'll have a rate that is fixed for a shorter period of time.
What's the biggest mistake that you see people make over and over again when they buy a house?
They don't anticipate all the costs associated. Oftentimes people want to remodel. They want to buy furniture. They don't anticipate other expenses like a new roof. That's where an inspection is very important when you're purchasing a home. It's a factor to take into consideration. That's where you can appreciate what some upcoming or expenses that you may incur within the next few years may be, and you want to be in a position to prepare for that.
Well, Rich Rivera of Charles Schwab, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rich. And let's go over to Eric.